David Dunn, a professor of international politics at the University of Birmingham. Your reaction, first of all, to this news?
Well, in some ways, this is no surprise. When Biden did really well in the November midterm elections, it was clear that he was much more popular in the country and the Democrats were as a party. And that really gave him the opportunity to run, despite the concern and skepticism of many of his party that he was too old. So he's been waiting his time, and this announcement today coincides with when he announced 4 years ago, and he sees his chances as good against Trump. He sees himself as the only person who can beat Trump, and it's very much lined up against them. And I guess, of course, given he's 80 years old, the main concern with many of the population, if he's running against 76-year-old Donald Trump, then that is less of an issue. So Biden wants to do his own thing.
So, David, what we will be seeing again is a Trump-Biden rematch. What does this mean for America?
Well, it's extraordinary, isn't it? We have two old people, very old people who in most countries would have been retired at this stage. And instead, what we have is these very old men who will be even older, whoever wins at the end of it. If Biden lasts to the end of his term of office, if he wins, he would be 86. Trump would be in his 80s. It's a rehash of many of the issues last time. Donald Trump wants to refight the election last time, especially over the result in terms of actually claiming the election was stolen. It's extraordinary that no younger person is able to actually win their party's nomination and take this forward. It shows that America is still very divided on the main issues. You couldn't get further apart in many ways than Trump and Biden, and many of those issues remain. So it's very unusual. It's never happened before. If it is the case that it's Trump versus Biden, it's never been the case that two elections have been fought by the same candidates, and never has there been candidates that are so old.
Indeed. So again, just to recap, this sets up the possibility of a rematch between Donald Trump and Joe Biden. And of course, Joe Biden is now more than 2 years into his presidency. How has he fared so far?
Well, this is a remarkable thing. I mean, Biden started off looking problematic in terms of the botched Afghan withdrawal. That was a problem for Biden. But actually, as far as the big issues are concerned, his record is one that's held up. On the question of Ukraine, most people support the way in which his administration has responded to the illegal invasion of Ukraine by Russia. Despite having a very wafer-thin majority in Congress, he has passed important legislation on the environment, particularly the Inflation Reduction Act that actually has brought in huge subsidies from American industry. So he's brought about the return of jobs to America, the renationalization of jobs, and that's seen as popular. And of course, he's also tried to bring inflation down. Inflation record is much lower than it is, for example, in the UK or other parts of Europe. So his record is seen as one that's actually been a relatively good job, despite the concerns about his age, which is the main issue as far as voters are concerned.
Indeed. And on that very point regarding age, regarding health, is there any other contender that could possibly come up in the Democratic Party?
Well, I think the Democrats have taken the decision that actually it's Biden's to call, and he's called it today. And they don't want to have a contested primary process, which would be damaging to him because people would make an issue of his age. And therefore, in a sense that they've decided as a party, by and large, certainly the most important candidates or potential rivals, not to challenge him, not to damage him, to give him a clear run for the presidency, given his record, and giving him the chance to actually go ahead and try and defeat Trump, if it is indeed Trump who is up against in 2 years' time.
And will it be Trump? What possibilities do you see of it being Donald Trump that, again, possibly Joe Biden could be running up against?
It's a really interesting situation whereby Trump has a stranglehold of the fanatical base of the Republican Party, who are vehemently supportive of him. And no other Republican candidate seems able to challenge him and retain that core base. That's the challenge they face. Ron DeSantis hasn't declared. He seems equivocal. He doesn't seem to know where to position himself. So the main rival against Trump so far hasn't left the blocks and isn't looking that strong a contender. There are other candidates. Nikki Haley is someone who is a more mainstream Republican candidate who hasn't criticized Trump. And if Trump were to fall, be arrested again, to be convicted, possibly be imprisoned, then it's possible that the Republican Party nomination could pass to her or to one of the other candidates. But just now, it looks like Donald Trump is in the ascendancy and is likely to win the nomination, given the strength of support he has among that radical, fanatical base.
So if we look at that 2024 re-election campaign and that possibility that it is Trump and Biden once again, how acrimonious do you think this campaign would be?
Oh, I expect it will be every bit as acrimonious as last time, if not more so, with personal jibes, with aspects of integrity being on the issue. There'll be the question also of not only attacking Biden for his age, but attacking his vice president, Kamala Harris. The speculation will be Biden will die or become unable to carry on, and therefore effectively who you're voting for is Kamala Harris, and there will be attacks on her because she isn't as popular as Biden is, and therefore you can expect the Republican Party and the presidential candidate Trump to go after her in a particularly vicious way as part of that campaign. So it'll be spiky. American politics is bitterly divided, and it will be problematic.
And David, just as you're speaking, we've just seen a line drop here saying the Republican Party has called Biden, quote, out of touch after making this 2024 announcement, maybe possibly setting the tone, of course, for more of what we will see.
Absolutely, yes. It's going to be fun to watch, if nothing else.
And you mentioned Kamala Harris. What happens to her and the possibility of, you know, her maybe being the one that stood in the running for the presidency?
Well, her view is that her best position of getting the job is to be the loyal lieutenant. She hasn't performed particularly well as vice president. The tasks she's been given to do have been difficult ones with regard to immigration and the border. She has a reputation of being difficult to work for. She's gone through a whole series of chiefs of staff, and her team have been replaced. Her popularity is low in the country and low in the party. So she realizes that if she were to challenge Biden, she would both lose that process for trying to get the nomination, and of course make it difficult for him to actually pick her as his vice presidential running mate. So actually, she has calculated that she is best to wait and either pick up the presidency by default if Biden is unable to carry on to the end of his term, or be in a position in 4 years or 6 years' time to be the candidate for the party at that point, and hopefully her record and her popularity will improve over the remaining years. But just now, she's made the political calculation that she's best to be loyal to Biden.
All right. Thank you so much, David Dunn, for reacting to the breaking news. David is a professor of international politics at the University of Birmingham. And just to recap for our audience, the breaking news that the US President Joe Biden, well, he has now formally declared that he will seek re-election in 2024, possibly setting the stage for an extraordinary rematch with Donald Trump.